answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
Why?
Wow. Man, that seems like yesterday. Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome to another Talkin and Grubbin live stream. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope you're all doing good. Or if you're on the other side of the world, I hope your day is going good. You know, I'm doing good. My day was good. My evening is going good. And this live stream, I've been waiting on this live stream for months. Matter of fact, I've been counting down to the day of this live stream ever since November. That's how long I've been waiting for it. And now it's finally here. Tonight, it's the 10th anniversary of the decision. As we all know, LeBron James did the special on ESPN back in 2010 on this day, called The Decision, where he, sat down with Jim Gray at a Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich, Connecticut, as everyone waited on pins and needles to see where LeBron will play next, whether he was going to stay with the Cleveland Cavaliers, his hometown team, go to the Miami Heat, go to the Bulls, go to the Knicks, go to the Nets. It was about 6 teams vying for LeBron's services. But he ultimately decided to go to Miami to play with his friends, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. They all took less money to go to the Heat to play together. And, excuse me, and that definitely upset a lot of Cleveland Cavaliers fans, including myself at that time. Also, y'all all know Dan Gilbert wrote his infamous letter and posted on the Cavs website in Comic Sans. And, that definitely, gave him a bad rep as an NBA owner. Some people felt he came off as racist, like a slave owner. Some people felt that he had a right to post the letter and defend his, team, rally his fan base. So tonight we're gonna get into that, the decision 10 years later, how it impacted Cleveland and Miami, the NBA free agency going forward. Also get into a little bit of a backstory. But as you come on in here to the live stream, make sure you hit the like button. Also, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and click all so you don't miss any new videos from me. If you can also support the channel via Cash App or PayPal. There's the Cash App cash tag. Also, the PayPal link. Or you could donate via Super Chat while I'm on here tonight during this live stream. Now, I've started selling official Talkin and Grubbin merchandise on teespring.com. Here's the link. I got t-shirts like this one here that says sports news, food, commentary, fun, and more. Got t-shirts for men and women, socks, coffee mugs, and more. Also, I'm working on a few more things to sell. So you can definitely check that out. You can click the link here. All the merch is at affordable prices. I don't believe in, really trying to gouge people or overcharge them. Also, throughout 2020, I'm offering some great deals, such as 20% off and free shipping. There's the 20% off promo code. Then there's the free shipping code, promo code, excuse me. So, You know, you could definitely go to teespring.com and buy the official merch that's available now. Now, about to give you a little backstory on the decision. Now, you know, from my perspective as a Cavs fan first, and then the perspective on how the decision special itself came about. You know, me going into that last season, definitely felt the Cavs were primed to win the NBA championship. They just traded for Shaq, despite the fact that he was old. I thought he could definitely be valuable in the playoffs. You know, with his veteran experience and championship pedigree. Then we got Antoine Jamerson, a perimeter shooter. You know, we had Jamario Moon coming off the bench. Mo Williams was an all-star the previous year. And definitely thought he would definitely come through, you know, would definitely improve after disappearing in the playoffs against the Magic a year earlier. Matter of fact, I definitely felt the Cavs were better equipped to compete with that Orlando Magic team that knocked them off in the conference finals the previous year. Definitely think we could have got past them if we ended up playing them again. And everything was looking good in that first round. You know, we knocked off the Bulls in 5 quick games. I remember going to that game 1 of the Bulls series. Matter of fact, I still have my ticket stub. Man, it was electric in that arena that day, man. I thought we were going to blow the roof off that place. You know, I had never been to an NBA playoff game before. But man, that was just an enjoyable experience. That's one of the best experiences I've had in my life. But then we got to the Celtics. And I knew the Celtics was not going to be easy, you know, with Paul Pierce, KG, Ray Allen, Rondo. You know, they were the champs the previous 2 years. But I definitely thought the Cavs would win that series. Definitely thought they would win that series. And I thought if they won that series and got through Orlando, they would have had a great chance of knocking off the Lakers to win it all because they would have been more battle tested. So me and my boy, we went to the first game of the Celtics series. You know, it was a very close game, but man, as the Cavs came back and won, man, the arena was just loud. You know, we were just screaming our heads off, blowing the roof off the place. And we definitely had some good seats. No, they weren't nosebleed, but they weren't front row either. And also, I saw this very beautiful woman who had this baby where she was just gorgeous, tall, fine, slim, beautiful. And guess what? I realized later that it was Candace Parker. You know, because her older brother, Anthony Parker, was on the Cavs at the time. And also, she was married to Sheldon Williams, who played on the Celtics at the time. Man, that woman looks way more beautiful in person. Sammy, what are you trying to say, man? Okay, I'm seeing people coming into the live stream. Make sure you hit the like button. Also, want your comments on the decision 10 years later, whatever you want, you know, whatever you want to say, whether it's about Dan Gilbert or LeBron going to South Beach, or Cavs fans' reactions. I'm going to get to their reactions in a little bit. Just leave it all, just put it all here in the chat. Like I said, make sure you're hitting the like button as you come through to this live stream. You know, whether you're a Cavs fan, Heat fan, NBA fan, LeBron fan, Come on in here to this live stream. Come on in the chat as we look back on the decision 10 years later. Just as long as you're respectful and act like you got some sense. Because if you don't, then I'm blocking you. So, we were very happy about that win. But then the Cavs ended up losing game 2. It's like they didn't give no effort in that game. But then LeBron went to the Garden and balled out in game 3 as the Cavs basically took home court advantage back from the Celtics. I definitely thought the Cavs were in prime position to win that series. But they lost a close game 4. But you kind of expected that because, hey, the Celtics, they're at home, they don't want to go down 3-1. They were too battle tested and had that championship pedigree. But then me, my boy, and my uncle who was visiting here in Cleveland from Memphis went to that game 5. Now, the first half, it was pretty close, but definitely thought the Cavs were going to pull it out. But that second half, the Cavs just got shellacked, for a better word. And you could tell something was off because when the Cavs were in timeouts, LeBron was away from the huddle as Mike Brown, who's the head coach at the time, and his coaching staff were drawing up plays. LeBron was distant from the team, very distant. He wasn't engaged in the huddle, just like something was off. And the Cavs ended up getting blown out in the worst way in game 5 at home. Then, the Cavs were finished off by Celtics in 6 games. And what a lot of people considered a stunning upset because the Cavs had the best record in the NBA at that time with 61 wins. A lot of people thought, that they would at least get to the finals, if not win it all. So, as Mike Breen said, as LeBron was walking through the tunnel of the Garden, LeBron James' season is over. Is his career in Cleveland over? So, the questions definitely started, hitting all at once after the Cavs were eliminated by the Celtics in the conference semifinals, aka the second round. Now, my mom, may God rest her soul, she told me this, especially throughout that season. She told me, if LeBron doesn't win a championship this year, I think he's leaving. And, me being young, naive, like, I don't want to believe it. Like, no, he's not going to leave his home. He's going to stay here. And I didn't know that, LeBron was going to announce his decision on national TV. I just thought he would do it like everyone else and just, tell a few people around him, and then it would just be revealed in the media. But then about a week or two, before the decision, it was announced that LeBron would be announcing his, his team of choice on ESPN in prime time. And I'm like, wow. I thought that was pretty interesting. That was an offbeat way of doing things. But prior to that, teams met with LeBron and his crew. Well, not his crew, but his partners, his agent, and business partners in downtown Cleveland in their office. The Cavs, the Nets, the Bulls, the Knicks, the Heat. They all came here to Cleveland to, pitch LeBron their ideas of how to put a championship team around him. And, as the legend or myth would have it, when he met with the Heat, Pat Riley put out all his championship rings in the middle of the table and told LeBron to try one of them on. And he said, if you come down to Miami, it would be kind of built similar to the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, which he coached to 4 championships. He was the assistant coach to the first title in 1980 with Paul Westhead. He said LeBron would be Magic, Bosh would be Worthy. Well, no. Yeah, LeBron would be Magic, Bosh would be, more like Worthy, and I guess Wade would be like the Kareem of the team. And the rumors have been swirling around leading up to the decision that LeBron was headed to Miami, but we weren't sure. Maybe he could have a change of heart, decide to stay in Cleveland, or maybe even go to the Bulls. But ultimately, he ended up going to Miami. Now, the backstory of how the decision came about is very interesting. Matter of fact, I didn't know this until recently. A Detroit Pistons fan from Columbus, Ohio, emailed Bill Simmons, saying that LeBron should announce his free agency choice in a primetime special on ABC. Now, and then Bill Simmons responded by telling him that, he and his crew should definitely put on that show and market the hell out of it. So Bill Simmons decides to go up to the head executives of ESPN and pitch this special. Then they, pitched it to LeBron and his team. At first, they weren't interested in doing a special. They were just going to do it the old-fashioned way. K-Fang, you said LeBron had a right to leave Cleveland. He was a free agent. You said, I wish he didn't leave Miami, but I understand he had to go back home to make things right with those Cleveland fans. Very true. Definitely had to he definitely was within his right to leave Cleveland as a free agent. But I think a lot more people just had a problem with how he did it. Not that he left, but how he did it. Okay, so LeBron's team at first wasn't interested in doing a special. But then, a few months later, they reconsidered. Since this is something that has never been done before. So, they did eventually take ESPN up on his offer, but it was LeBron's idea that all the money from, the ad revenue should be donated to the Boys and Girls Club. Excuse me. So, days leading up to the decision, me, myself, and a lot of Cavs fans were, just on pins and needles, anticipating, where LeBron was going to go. We were all hoping, anticipating that he would say that he was staying in Cleveland. So then, the decision came on. Well, I watched the pre-show to the decision with Magic Johnson, Michael Wilbon, the late Stuart Scott, also John Barry. And Chris Broussard, who's now with Fox Sports. And a lot of them, and even they weren't sure, but according to Chris Broussard's multiple sources, that LeBron was definitely going to Miami. So then, bam, right around a little after 9 o'clock, the day we all been waiting for, the decision. LeBron sits down with Jim Gray at the Boys and Girls Club in Greenwich. And matter of fact, I still can't figure out to this day, why the hell did they choose Jim Gray of all people for that interview? I mean, he was so boring, so dry. It's like he had no energy, no it's like he brought the vibe down. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, y'all couldn't have went with Stuart Scott, Mike Tirico. Heck, even Mike Breen would have been more better. But no, choose Jim Gray because that's who LeBron chose. And in my opinion, I think he chose Jim Gray, because he knew Jim Gray wasn't really going to ask him any tough questions. I think a more seasoned journalist would have asked LeBron more tough questions. Heck, they could even went with Stephen A. He wasn't with ESPN at that time. I think he would have been a better fit than Jim Gray. Because Jim Gray asked some stupid questions. Like, are you still a nail biter? Like, what kind of question is that to ask a professional athlete when you about to interview? And it's like, okay, I understand that you gotta drag it out because you can't, just hit the audience right away with where LeBron is going to, but at least ask better questions. You know what I'm saying? At least ask better questions. Heck, I could have done a better job than that. And I'm not even a journalist. But they had small talk about the team that he was about to go to. And he asked LeBron, does the team that he's going to knows that he's about to come to him? And he basically told him they just found out. Now, in my opinion, I don't think, they had just found out that day. I think it was a little bit more advanced than what he said, because after, Bosh agreed to join Wade in Miami, they were posting pictures on Twitter when Twitter was not, on and popping back then like it is now, of, Wade on the left on one chair and Bosh in the other, and an empty chair in the middle. So I definitely think they knew, LeBron knew a little bit more advanced than what he let on. But that's just my opinion. So basically, close to 10 o'clock, LeBron finally reveals his decision. And I'm just like sitting there just anxious, getting a little impatient. Like, come on, man. Will y'all just get on with just announce what team you going to, Brian? Come on, man. But close to 10 o'clock, he announced that he was taking his talents to South Beach and joined the Miami Heat. And man, I ain't gonna lie, I was definitely upset and hurt. It's like that struck me in the heart. And not only it felt like that struck me in the heart, that struck all of Cleveland in the heart. You know what I'm saying? Because he was us. He was one of ours. Yes, he's from Akron, but Akron is only 45 minutes away from Cleveland. So LeBron and Cleveland are like next door neighbors. Don't let folks in Akron tell you different. Akron and Cleveland are intertwined, okay? We are definitely connected. So we felt like, this was one of our own. Now, it would have been different if LeBron was from, say, New York, LA, Atlanta, Dallas, Chicago. But he wasn't. He was one of ours. He was born here. He was homegrown. A lot of people were watching this man ever since he was a kid, with St. Vincent St. Mary. Matter of fact, that's the only high school team I ever known who had all their games shown on national TV. I haven't seen any high school team have their games featured on ESPN ever since then. So, man, I was just, dejected, shocked. Almost any negative reaction you can describe, that's how I was feeling that night. I was just stunned, like, oh man, I can't believe it. Definitely couldn't believe it. Excuse me. And then my best friend, he called me a little bit not too long after the news had hit, and we were just talking about almost 2 hours about it, like just venting out our frustrations on how upset we were. My friend called LeBron a few choice words that I'm not going to repeat on here. But man, we were just upset over how he did it. It ain't about him leaving. It was more about how it was done. About to grow on a little dinner here with these mixed vegetables and baked chicken. Y'all see that? Okay. I'm hungry. But yeah, my best friend and I just venting our frustrations to each other for almost those 2 hours. Then my mom told me, she said, I told you. She said, I told you, if he didn't win a championship, he was leaving. And yep, she was right. Drop some on this floor. So, a lot of fans that were downtown, came out and vented their frustrations over LeBron departing Cleveland for Miami. A lot of them were upset. They were hurt. They were devastated. I'm about to play you their reactions. In a few minutes. But I want to get into my personal, my own point of view there a little bit more. So, excuse me. So yeah, me, my best friend and I, we were just letting out our hurt, frustration for those last 2 hours. That's all we talked about was that. Excuse me. Because it was just so, gut wrenching, man. Just so gut wrenching. Then I listened to, Cleveland Sports Talk Radio most of that night. I even tried to get on to vent my frustrations, but I couldn't get on because, the line was busy. The phone lines were full. Everybody in Cleveland and all of Northeast Ohio wanted to get on and just vent their frustrations out to all the hosts that were there at that night, to get it off their chest. But then I, turned to News Channel 5, which is the ABC affiliate here in Cleveland, to hear some of the Cavs fans' frustrations. I'm about to play it for you now. Let me get this together. Y'all about to hear their frustrations.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I ran Please Stay LBJ. This party is because of our organization, and we've supported him for 7 years now. And for him to go on there and drag us through the mud for 7 years and stab us in the heart, he deserves everything he gets. I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me.
Was this worse than 9/11?
Get out of here. Come on, get out of here, dude. That's not funny.
It was disgusting. What just happened was disgusting.
Who the hell asked that kind of question?
And this is what he has to reward us with. Like, this is terrible. He wants to go to a city. He calls himself a sports historian, a guy who embraces the NBA and knows knowledge about the NBA. And he goes to Miami, where the most fickle fans are. This is terrible. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to Cleveland since Modell taking the Browns away. Bottom line.
He's one of our own. He's one of our own. That's what makes it so painful. Art Modell, he's 65 years old. He went away and the Browns came back. LeBron can never come back. He's one of our own. He's from Akron. He has a tattoo of loyalty on his body. And he ignored that to go chase the championship with Chris Bosh in Miami. He follows Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh be following him. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. Good riddance. Dan Gilbert will bring us a winner. We don't need LeBron.
Josh Grant, the new chosen one.
My name's Jeffrey LaRoque. I just want to say I'm a big LeBron fan, and this is the worst thing that could have ever happened to me. And I just want to say that I hope that LeBron doesn't win a championship in Miami, and I hope we come back stronger next year, and we win the NBA championship. Always next year.
I just want to say I've been a Cleveland sports fan all my life. I went to see Cavs games before LeBron was there. I'll never go back again. I hope the franchise moves. I hope there's no more basketball in Cleveland. And I thought for once in my life, with how much I love Cleveland sports, it would love me back. And that has not happened today. That's all I have to say.
Chicago, Miami, New York, they don't depend on LeBron like Cleveland depends on it. Like East 4th depends on LeBron being there for 6 months. Nothing else brings 30, 40,000 people down to East 4th. When he's gone, half those places are going to close. He screwed us. They built a practice facility in Independence for it to be closer to his house in Bath. Who's going to buy his $35 million house in Bath? Akron?
Chicken's
Who's
good.
in Akron? Who's going to buy that? It's garbage. Thank you.
You got another one going in.
Those are all going back.
Okay, y'all saw the Cavs fans' reactions at that time. Now, the first guy they interviewed, I forgot his name, is Jason something. I forget his last name. Ever since, a little bit after that, he did a few interviews on CNN. They interviewed him when LeBron left. They interviewed him when LeBron first came back. And they interviewed him after the Cavs won the NBA championship in 2016. And also, y'all saw, those fans, some of those fans burning jerseys. No, not all Cavs fans burned LeBron's jersey, okay? Stop believing that daggone narrative. Only some burned LeBron's jersey. Not all Cavs fans. In fact, there were still some people in Cleveland that were supportive of LeBron going to Miami. And they said that they would still be Cavs fans. Now, those reactions were just after the decision had just happened. So emotions were high, emotions were still raw. And we were never mad about LeBron leaving Cleveland. We were mad about how he did it. During that special, he didn't thank the fans of Cleveland. He didn't thank, Cleveland for supporting him for 7 years now. I can understand not thanking Dan Gilbert because he and the Cavs organization had their issues at that time, but he still could have thanked the fans of Cleveland for their support all those years. I definitely will say that. And also, ESPN, they definitely, paint a bad image of Cleveland and Cavs fans in general. They made it all like that we were all bitter, that we all burned LeBron's jerseys, that, we never showed him support, Some people felt we were fake fans. But that was never the case. Cleveland is definitely a loyal city. It's definitely a loyal sports town. Loves his teams, sometimes to a fault. Let me get into some of these comments. A lot of comments in the comment section. I didn't run on a rant. Okay, Jesse Lynn. Gilbert had LeBron for 7 years and he gave him no help. Well, in actuality, Dan Gilbert only had LeBron for 5 years. He was not the owner for all those 7 years LeBron was in Cleveland. A lot of people just assume that. A lot of y'all do not do y'all y'all don't do y'all research. Gordon Gunn was the owner of LeBron's first 2.5 years in Cleveland. Gilbert didn't buy the team until 2005. And that's when Jim Paxson was the GM at that time. So Dan Gilbert only had LeBron for 5 years. Okay. Lane guy, you said, I agree with LeBron going to South Beach, but I don't like how he did it with the decision on ESPN. Exactly. No one's telling LeBron that he can't he can't exercise his right as a free agent. But, a lot of people just felt you don't have to disrespect your hometown fans like that by going on national TV and announcing which team you're going to. Just, announce which team you're going to, let it leak out in the media, and let it be it. And just make sure you just, give thank you to the fans for showing their love and support for you for all those years. Okay, getting to some more comments here. K. Hung says Dan Gilbert was racist as hell for posting that letter on the Cavs website. Everybody get to the letter in a little bit. Team lead, look at how trash the Cavs were when he left. The Bulls won 55 games without MJ. Yeah, but the Bulls still had Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was still an all-star, and you still had Phil Jackson as the head coach. So you definitely could build a winning team around Scottie Pippen. A lot of people for years keep on making that argument. You're comparing apples to oranges. Did the Lakers still win games after Kobe retired? No, they didn't. That goes with any team, especially in the NBA. If you lose stars, guess what? Your team is going to be bad most of the time. Especially if you don't have a star to build around. Okay, get into that comment a little later. Okay, Elisa, those Cavs fans acted like a bunch of crybabies burning his jersey. Not all Cavs fans burned his jersey. That is not true, and that's not the case. That was never the case. K. Chin says, who can blame LeBron wanting to go play with his friends and play for Pat Riley? Definitely true. No one ever held that against him. Pat Riley definitely knows how to win. Just about everywhere he's been, he's won. He won 5 championships with the Lakers in the 80s. Definitely had successful runs with the Knicks in the mid 90s. Well, no, early 90s, excuse me. They just could never get over the hump, and then had success with those Heat teams in the mid to late 90s, but they could never either get past the Knicks or Michael Jordan. Those Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning teams could never get over that hump. But, back to my point. Now, one of the fans said in that interview that basically the East 4th, which is in downtown Cleveland, definitely revolved around LeBron, and that area would be packed when Cavs games were playing at that time, which was very true. Downtown Cleveland was definitely bumping and jumping when LeBron played there his first time. All the bars and restaurants in downtown Cleveland were always packed with Cavs fans, fans of opposing teams. That was definitely a hell of a boost for Cleveland's economy at that time. Matter of fact, LeBron, in his first stint in Cleveland, bought $100 million to Cleveland's economy alone. And, when he left, that definitely took a hit in downtown. Because a lot of people weren't coming down there, coming down there to the bars and the restaurants like they used to. I pour myself some juice. Also, jobs were lost. Some businesses had to close. So it was just a big domino effect when the decision went down. And I definitely think LeBron didn't realize how much power he had until he did the decision. I definitely think LeBron underestimated the power he had. So not only the Cavs had to rebuild as a team, but also Cleveland had to find ways to rebuild so it wouldn't get in this point again. That way, especially that downtown area can essentially run and be successful without being reliant on sports. Some good juice. Now, that whole night, man, I'll never forget that whole night, man. I listened to, Cleveland sports radio all night. I listened to 850 WKNR, but now it's 850 AM ESPN Cleveland. I listened to it all night. A lot of the hosts, they were venting their frustrations, their anger over the decision. They didn't like how it all went down. They didn't like the fact that LeBron went on national TV and, gave the news like that to Cleveland. Excuse me. As a matter of fact, one of the hosts had a LeBron bobblehead and he broke it live. He took a hammer and broke it live on the air. As a matter of fact, that video was on YouTube for years, but it's been since taken down. And that got a lot of views. Definitely got a lot of views at that time. But yeah, man, I stayed up till at least about 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, just listening to that station, listening to them, listening to fans. Everybody just letting out their frustration, their emotions, just anger, pain, whatever negative emotion you can describe, it was there in a lot of those fans' responses that night and all the way into the early morning. And that affected Cleveland's psyche at the time. It's like, where do we go from here? What does the future hold? It's like, okay, what is our worth if one of our own leaves us because he thought we wasn't good enough? I mean, that's the feelings that we genuinely had at that time. Excuse me. But man, man, when I got up that next morning and turned on ESPN, man, they just kept on playing the decision and its reaction nonstop. Man, y'all excuse me for a minute. Straighten out one of my lights. Okay, my apologies, y'all. Just realized the plug wasn't in all the way. So I had to correct that. My apologies. So, man, it's like they just constantly replayed, the reaction of Cavs fans. They also interviewed, a couple of Cleveland sports radio. Well, no, one Cleveland sports radio host, my mistake, to, give the perspective on how Cleveland was feeling now that the decision has happened. And a lot of, some athletes, as well as, people like Spike Lee gave their take on the decision and how Dan Gilbert, handled it with his now infamous letter. And I was just like, man, I just tried my best to avoid it. Because like I just didn't want to deal with it no more because it was too upsetting, too depressing. But let me get into Dan Gilbert's letter for a little bit. Now, about an hour or two after the decision, Dan Gilbert, the Cavs owner, decided to post a letter to the fans on the Cavs website in Comic Sans, basically venting out his frustrations, his anger over, LeBron going on national TV with, doing the decision special. And also he was angry over the fact that, Dan Gilbert didn't know up front. He basically had to find out like minutes before, LeBron went on the air to do the decision. Because according to reports, Rich Paul called Dan Gilbert about 5 minutes before LeBron went on live to do the special and told Dan Gilbert that LeBron was going to Miami. I'm like, wow. Like he just told him 5 minutes before he was going on that he was going to Miami. And a lot of people, felt that, especially a lot of black people felt that, Dan Gilbert, he came off as a slave owner. A lot of people said he was racist, but then there were other people who defended him by saying that, it wasn't racist. Some people felt race was thrown too loosely, and they just felt that he was just trying to rally his fan base. Now, Dan Gilbert shouldn't have wrote that letter. He shouldn't have posted it on the team's website because it made him look petty. It made him look childish, and it made him look like he had that slave master mindset. Excuse me. Now it's one thing if he would have just said those words behind the scenes. That's different because, as long as there's no video or audio proof of him saying those words, then it would just be speculation. But he decided to type it and just post it on the website, on his website for all the world to see and laugh at. And that definitely has in a way tarnished his image as an NBA owner. Now, I mean, people don't really talk about the letter as much anymore because I guess, because LeBron went back to him in spite of that it doesn't get brought up anymore. But a lot of people still and always will remember that letter Dan Gilbert posted on the Cavs team's website that night. And also, you got to have more professionalism and integrity as a businessman because, that definitely alienates that definitely alienated him with free agents, because a lot of them at that time said, you know, I'm not gonna go to Cleveland because, you know, look at that letter Dan Gilbert wrote when LeBron left. You know, it's like they felt that he didn't show LeBron any appreciation or, you know, support for all that he had done for him while, you know, they were working together. So they looked at it and said, well, if he did that to LeBron, how would he react to me if I decided to leave and go to another team? So, you know, man, that letter definitely was not cool. Okay, let me get into some comments. K9 says, I understood Cleveland fans' reactions, but Dan Gilbert came off like a bitter ex. K Chu says he gave the Cavs 7 years and they didn't give him no help. Okay, you can make that argument. Okay, Cavs fans should have been more grateful for what he did for Cleveland's economy. Oh, we definitely appreciated what LeBron did for, you know, the Cavs in the city of Cleveland. We just didn't like how he executed his actions on the way out the door. You know what I'm saying? We did not like how LeBron executed his actions on his way out of Cleveland. And also, you know, we just felt that he could have gave us some gratitude by just at least saying thank you for 7 years. And also, like I said earlier, he had issues with the Cavs organization. He should have done a better job of keeping his issues with the Cavs organization and the fans separate. You know, LeBron should have definitely been more conscious of, you know, reassuring that this was all about him and his career and his personal growth, and this had nothing to do with the fans at all. And I'm gonna get into, you know, how, you know, some of the regrets LeBron may have had a little later. You know, because at that time, it felt like we were watching a public divorce. It's okay. It's like, as I said in my video on the decision, it's like your boyfriend or girlfriend calls you up to meet you somewhere in public. It could be a restaurant, it could be a park, or wherever, you know, just somewhere public with people, a bunch of people around. And then once you get there, they tell you right there in front of the public that they're breaking up with you. That's some cold. That would be some cold stuff right there. You know, you thinking you're getting all dressed up, you know, looking good thinking it's something important, and they just invite you out in public just to break up with you. And also, even David Stern, you know, the late David Stern said that, you know, that he didn't want ESPN to air the special because he felt that it would be bad for LeBron's image and also bad for the NBA's image. He begged them not to do the decision special. Okay, I'm seeing people coming into the comment section. The live stream. Make sure you hit the like button. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell and click all so you don't miss any new videos or upcoming live streams from me. So, you know, like I said, Cleveland, you know, I'm going to tell a lot of y'all about Cleveland people because let's keep it real. ESPN never really got the Cleveland fan side of the story. You know, they just went with their own narrative for the rating, you know, for the views and the ratings. You know, Clevelanders are big on loyalty. We're very big on loyalty and hard work. We're a blue collar city. We're not, I know we ain't New York, we're not LA, Chicago, Atlanta, you know, Dallas, Houston, Vegas, Seattle, whatever. You know, we don't have the glitz and glamour, but we do, you know, we do value hard work and loyalty, you know, and effort. If you be loyal to us, we'll be loyal to you. You know? And I'm not saying LeBron wasn't loyal. Definitely not saying that at all. But I also think that at the time we felt that we gave LeBron a lot of love and it wasn't given back at that time. You know? It's like, you know, and also in a lot of ways, Cleveland sports fans consider certain players family, especially if you're out there grinding, working hard, you know, trying your best to help the team win and be successful. You know, we embrace that. I mean, look at the 90s Indians. Now, yes, they didn't win the World Series. Should have won in 97. Should have won 97. But today, those guys are still embraced. Kenny Lofton, Jim Thome, Omar Vizquel, excuse me, Albert Bell. Who else? Carlos Viagra, the, you know, Alomar brothers, especially Sandy. Sandy's still beloved here in Cleveland. You know, Mike Hargrove, he's still loved in Cleveland. The Browns of the 80s, you know, despite that they couldn't get past Elway and Denver, those dudes are still loved, like Bernie, Webster Slaughter, Ozzie Newsome, Hanford Dixon, Frank Minifield, Reggie Langhorne. Those guys are still loved to this day. You know, even some of the Indians that played in the 2000s. You know, a lot of people were upset over CeCe Sabathia and Cliff Lee being traded. To this day, we still got love for those dudes. Even though CeCe went to the Yankees, we still had love for Cleveland. Matter of fact, last year at the All-Star game, you know, when they announced his name, he got a standing ovation at Progressive Field. So CeCe is still loved here. And even with the Browns, some of them since the Browns been back, even though they ain't really been a lot of winning, but cats like Joe Thomas and Josh Cribbs, and even Joe Hayden, even though he's playing for the Steelers, they're still loved by Cleveland fans. And I don't know and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, whether you're watching this live stream or you watch the playback, I don't know any other fan base that really shows that kind of love for, you know, players. You know what I'm saying? That really embrace players like that. I don't even think Chicago embraced all those dudes from those 90s Bulls teams like that. If it ain't Jordan, Pippen, or Rodman. But to all my people in Chicago, if I'm wrong, y'all correct me. I'm just giving my perspective. Even, you know, the 2016 Cavs that won the NBA championship. You know, a lot of those players are definitely still loved on this team. Of course, we all know LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, but J.R. Smith, he definitely still gets a lot of love here in Cleveland. Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, you know. As a matter of fact, him and Channing Frye both said that they didn't really feel that love in other cities that they played in until they got to Cleveland. You know? But, you know, with LeBron, we looked at LeBron like family. You know what I'm saying? Because as I said, I'm gonna stop saying you know what I'm saying for the rest of the night. But we just, you know, we still look at LeBron as family, but at that time, we looked at him as family, as one, because he was one of ours. And just like with family members, you get upset at some of the things they do or some of the decisions that they make, but you still love them. You just don't approve of what they do. And that was the thing with this. We understood what LeBron had to do by leaving Cleveland, but we just didn't like how he went about it in the execution. Because looking back on it now, the decision was the best and the worst thing for Cleveland. The best thing was LeBron leaving Cleveland definitely got us draft picks to build off of. You know, if that didn't happen, there would have been no Kyrie Irving or Tristan Thompson. Definitely wouldn't have been an Andrew Wiggins and turning that pick or Kevin Love. But the worst thing was the Cavs were going to suck for a while. And we definitely saw how bad it gotten for those 4 years. Oh, man, it was bad. Oh, man, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But, you know, I want to get into a little bit on how LeBron's decision to the Heat impacted the Miami Heat in the city of Miami. Now, you know, the Heat, they only have been around for a little over 20 years. And when they first started, they were horrible. They were a terrible team. They had only made the playoffs, I think, once. But then once Pat Riley got down there in 95, he instantly started turning that team into a contender. You know, he had great teams in the mid to late 90s, led by Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning, but they couldn't get over the hump, you know, because they would either lose to the Knicks or the Bulls. But then Tim Hardaway got old. Alonzo Mourning started having health issues due to his kidney trouble. So Pat Riley had to rebuild. And in the 2003 draft, he ended up getting a steal in Dwayne Wade in the 5th round. And they built a pretty decent team around him with Caron Butler and Lamar Odom. And they made the playoffs that year. And, you know, they had a nice run. They got beat in the 2nd round by the Pacers in 6 games. But then, you know, fate would come knocking at their door in the summer of 2004 as the Lakers offered them Shaquille O'Neal for Caron Butler and Lamar Odom because he and Kobe were not getting along. So once Shaq and D Wade got together, you definitely knew that they were a championship caliber team. Now, in 2005, they ended up losing to the Detroit Pistons in 7 games due to the fact that Wade was injured for most of that series, as well as Shaq. I definitely thought the Heat were going to at least get to the NBA Finals that year, but, you know, injuries stopped them. But then the next year, they ended up winning the NBA championship against the Dallas Mavericks, rallying from an 0-2 deficit. And Wade was finals MVP, and then, man, he was the man in that series, boy. But then after that championship, you know, Shaq started getting older. So did Gary Payton, Alonzo Mourning. So a lot of those players from that team retired. And Shaq ended up being traded to the Suns. So definitely closed Miami's window for a while. But then fate would definitely knock on their door again in 2010 when they would land LeBron and Chris Bosh to join D-Wade Miami to create a new big three. So a lot of the Heat fans were definitely excited. You know, Rick Ross, Miami native, he was definitely excited that LeBron and Wade were coming to Miami because they knew that they were going to be championship contenders again. Excuse me. And they also knew that, that that it was going to be a big party down in South Beach, especially on game nights following games. But it wasn't up. But then it didn't start out that way. I mean, when they first, when the big three first started in those few months, a lot of fans were not, showing up to games. As a matter of fact, the Heat had to put out a notice to fans to start showing up to the games to see this super team that was put together. You know what I'm saying? And who knows? Maybe LeBron had something to do with that because he looked at like, well, hell, when I was in Cleveland, shoot, the games would be packed way before tip-off. Matter of fact, shoot, Cavs fans would be lined up at the door at least an hour or two ahead of time. So, fans got the message and started, showing up more consistently to the games. And in 2011, the team ended up losing to the Dallas Mavericks in 6 games. Man, Dirk, I still give Dirk and that Dallas team mad credit for what they accomplished in 2011. A lot of people don't, but I think a lot of people should definitely acknowledge that more. And, a lot of people, including myself, definitely was rooting for the Heat to lose that series because a lot of us at that time felt that, they were arrogant, cocky, they felt like they were just so invincible, the best team, like they were just the best team in the world. No one could beat them. I mean, look at that, rally they had at the American Airlines Arena that next day after the decision. LeBron was up on stage talking about, that they were going to win not 5, not 6, not 7, but 8 championships easily. So we all felt that the Heat needed to be humbled, and needed to learn that it wasn't going to be easy because the Heat, they were heavily favored in that NBA Finals against Dallas. A lot of people thought that they were going to make easy work of the Mavericks, but it didn't turn out that way. And LeBron definitely did not show up in that Finals. He only scored an average of 8 points in the fourth quarter throughout that whole series. Excuse me. So the Heat had to go back to the drawing board and retool their team a little bit. But then 2011, in the 2012 NBA season, there was a lockout. And the NBA was in grave danger of not having a season. But they worked out the labor issues and tipped off on Christmas Day. And the Heat definitely started sending a message to people that they were on a redemption tour for what happened in the finals the previous year. They ended up with the second best record in the NBA. Excuse me. But they were definitely tested throughout the playoffs, especially in the second round, the conference finals. The Pacers, they gave them a run for their money, but they ultimately knocked them off in 6 games. Then they had to deal with the Celtics again in the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Celtics went up 3-2 after they won Game 5 in Miami, but LeBron put on a hell of a performance in the Garden, scored 45 points in Game 6 to force it back to Miami for Game 7. And my correction, the Heat had the 4th best record in the NBA that year. And then the Heat took care of business in Game 7 at home to get back to the NBA Finals. This time, they faced the OKC Thunder. And a lot of people thought the Thunder were going to win that series because, they just came off of a tough Western Conference Finals against the San Antonio Spurs. And it looked that way as the Thunder definitely took Game 1. But the Heat stormed back to win 4 in a row to capture their second NBA championship. And LeBron finally got his first NBA title, and he was named Finals MVP unanimously. Then, a lot of people considered that title a fluke because it was in a shortened season. It was in a lockout season. So the Heat wanted to definitely prove to everybody it wasn't a fluke. So the next year, the Heat definitely, just dominated out of the gate. Matter of fact, at one point, they had won 27 in a row. They didn't lose until about mid to late March against the Chicago Bulls. And a funny thing about that was me and my best friend, we went to Chicago, for St. Patrick's Day weekend, just a little getaway. And we were staying at the Best Western that's out in Rosemont. And, I had overheard the dude working at the desk and one of the housekeepers, talking about that game. He was definitely excited that the Bulls broke the Heat's winning streak. Because he definitely did not like the Heat, and he definitely did not like LeBron. So I told him I was from Cleveland. He said, "Oh man, I hate LeBron for what he did to you guys. He definitely should have done that to you guys. That he was wrong for doing that to you guys." He said, "I hope he never wins a championship with the Heat, another championship." But, the Heat ended up winning 66 games, clinching the best record in the NBA. The first 2 rounds were easy for the Heat, but they were facing the Pacers again. And the Pacers, with Paul George, Roy Hibbert, David West, they gave the Heat all they could handle. But the Heat ended up prevailing in 7 games to go to the NBA Finals once again. This time they were matched with the San Antonio Spurs, who, swept LeBron's Cavs in 2007. So LeBron definitely wanted some redemption against the Spurs and finally get over that hump. And man, that was a hell of an NBA Finals. Matter of fact, some of my relatives in Memphis, they're big LeBron fans. And they were definitely rooting for the Heat, especially one of my cousins, because they were up here during that finals. And we all had a little party over here at my apartment, some pizzas, some wings, just laughing and talking. And my cousin was definitely happy when the Heat won one of those games in San Antonio. She was clapping and rooting every time the Heat made a bucket. And for those last 4 years, my aunt was hard on me, saying, "Oh, y'all, set up and dog LeBron. Y'all burnt his jersey." Matter of fact, she even called me a traitor. My own auntie called me a traitor. Oh man, I still can't believe auntie said that to me. But the last two games were classic, especially that game 6, as it looked like the Spurs were closing in on another championship. When those final 3-4 minutes went back and forth, the Heat would score a basket, then the Spurs would score a basket. And then Tony Parker, hit some key baskets in the final seconds to give the Spurs the lead. And, all they had to do was ice it with some free throws. But Ginobili missed one, Kawhi Leonard missed one, and that left the door open for the Heat. LeBron definitely scored the last, 6-8 points in the final seconds. And, once again, the Heat had to foul Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi went 1 for 2. But then, Pop took out Tim Duncan in the final seconds and just let him sit on the bench. And I wondered, why did he do that? But then LeBron, attempted a jumper to tie the game, missed it, but Chris Bosh tipped it out to Ray Allen for the game tying 3, and the game went to OT, and the Heat ended up surviving in overtime to force Game 7. And Game 7 was very close, especially that fourth quarter. Tim Duncan went to the hole for the to get the to try to score the layup to tie the game, but he missed it. And then on the other end, the Heat ended up scoring, and it was a quick swing just like that. And the Heat ended up, holding on to win back-to-back NBA championships. LeBron was Finals MVP once again, as he went on to, basically was the man in that series. He was the best player in that series. He wasn't unanimous Finals MVP like the year before, but he definitely was the man in that series. So, back-to-back championships, that lit, the city of that was lit for the city of Miami. But also that bandwagon fan showed in some fans as they left in the final seconds of Game 6, and they all tried to get back in, but they couldn't get back into the arena because once you leave, you can't get back in. That's the rules that that's about the rule in every NBA arena across the country. But back-to-back titles had the city of Miami and Heat Nation partying. That run for the city of Miami definitely boosted their economy, because LeBron was the top jersey seller in the NBA. Also, they sold out very well on the road. That definitely brought $100+ million to the Miami economy. And also brought a lot of celebrities to those Heat games as well. Excuse me. But I was looking at a couple months ago, I saw the Miami Heat parade on YouTube there, 2000, what was it? 2012 championship parade. You know, and one of the announcers for the Heat's the Heat's local network, Fox Sports Southwest, commented on how how a lot of people definitely hated on LeBron for the decision, hated the big three. And the announcer said, basically said, I can understand, people in Cleveland being mad. They're a loyal sports fan base. They hadn't won a championship since 1964. And matter of fact, his partner, was from Cleveland, from Cleveland. So he said, you understand what it's like in Cleveland, how it is in Cleveland. But they basically said they couldn't understand how anyone else outside of Cleveland was mad over LeBron doing the decision. But, LeBron, LeBron going to Miami and, the big three being together was definitely a major draw. They were always featured on national TV. Like I said, definitely drew a lot of the celebrities to Heat games. Also, definitely boosted Miami's economy. A whole lot while they were down there by 100 plus, drawing at least 100 plus million. But then 2014, the Heat, got back to the NBA Finals again, but this time the Spurs annihilated them in 5 quick games, and Kawhi Leonard basically introduced himself to the world on the NBA's biggest stage as he took home Finals MVP, because he did a hell of a job, containing LeBron throughout that series. Yeah, LeBron put up some numbers, but Kawhi did a great job containing LeBron in that series. I think that's the main reason he ended up winning Finals MVP. Excuse me. But, LeBron definitely, learned how to win in Miami. Him going to Miami was like going to college. Accidentally clicked on that by mistake. This one person said, I miss those big three Heat teams. King said, I thought he was going to the Knicks. Okay, the decision definitely showed how many players can control, players can control the narrative, even though the show was badly executed. Definitely agree. Definitely showed that the players can control the narrative. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Excuse me. But, now, yes, the Heat definitely drew a lot of crowds while the big LeBron and the big three were down there. They won back-to-back championships and whatnot. And went to 4 straight NBA, winning 4 straight Eastern Conference titles. But, and this is just my opinion, Miami always felt very bandwagon. You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't really have a diehard fan base down there. And and I'm not saying every fan in Miami is a bandwagoner, because there are some true ride or die Heat fans. You know, they were there when the team was horrible after that 2006 title run. So those fans I give big ups to for being loyal and staying with the Heat through thick and thin. But it just seemed like a lot of them only were just Heat fans or watching the Heat because the team was winning. You know, it seemed like after, you know, when the team wasn't good, they weren't really paying attention to the team. But also, I think that's due to the fact because Miami has so many transplants from other cities, and a lot of those people, they're going to root for their hometown teams. You know, so after 2014, you know, the decision part 2 comes up. You know, the decision part 2 was coming around the corner once again. What will LeBron do this time? Would he stay in Miami? Would he go back to Cleveland? Or would he take his talents to a whole nother team? Now, you know, Pat Riley made his press conference talking about, you know, issuing a challenge to all of them. Stay here if you got the guts. You know, don't run, you know, on the fourth, basically saying, well, I'll make sure I got this quote right. Don't run out the first door you see. So a lot of people were anxious to see what LeBron was going to do next. And a lot of people, especially ESPN, definitely thought LeBron was staying in Miami. A lot of people thought, you know, LeBron was going to stay in Miami. But the disadvantage, you know, of staying with the Heat was they were cap strapped. You know, there was no flexibility to improve the team to get, you know, more quality free agents to come to Miami. You know, the only way they could get free agents would have to be veterans to sign the mid-level exception, the veterans minimum, stuff like that. You know, but a lot of people felt that, you know, LeBron was going to stay in Miami because, well, you know, it's Pat Riley. You know, he's going to find a way to, you know, improve the team to get them more help to win more championships, to keep the winning going. Some people felt that, oh, you know, why would LeBron leave Miami, especially for Cleveland, Ohio? You know, nobody leaves Miami and goes back to Ohio. That's crazy. Some felt, well, why would he want to go back to Cleveland after, you know, Dan Gilbert wrote that letter and the fans burnt his jersey when he left? You know, a lot of people just felt that him staying in Miami was the best choice, especially if they could find a way to get Chris Bosh out of there and get Carmelo Anthony. You know, that was definitely another big name in free agency at that time. But a lot of people weren't sure about that because Carmelo's wife, Lala, you know, had Hollywood aspirations for her career. You know, her acting career hadn't taken off yet. So a lot of people thought maybe he would head to LA because, you know, because of that. Or he would sign with the Bulls. And also, a lot of people felt that, well, some people, felt that you know, what the team, you know, the team that was there at that time for the Cavs was not good. You know, most people felt it was just Kyrie Irving and a bunch of role players. But I'm going to let y'all in on something that has never been revealed. LeBron was watching the Cavs games while he was still with the Miami Heat. You know, he would definitely watch. You know, he loved Kyrie's game. He loved Tristan Thompson's, you know, hustle and rebounding. Excuse me. Also, you know, if y'all look at the All-Star game in 2013 or 2014, LeBron definitely was just, you know, off his feet every time Kyrie made a play. You know, he really was, and you know, and I'm going to use an old school term, he was jocking Kyrie at the All-Star game. He was definitely bigging up Kyrie at that All-Star game, especially when Kyrie ended up taking home All-Star game MVP. He was definitely bigging up Kyrie Irving. So yeah, while he was playing with Miami, whenever he had downtime, he was definitely looking at the, you know, looking at Cavs games. Yeah, it was 2014. Kyrie was named All-Star Game MVP. So, you know, a lot of people definitely did not think LeBron would ever go back to Cleveland after how everything went down in 2010. People thought that would be definitely impossible. They thought that bridge had burned to the ground, never to be rebuilt. But then, you know, my oldest brother definitely always thought that LeBron would come back to Cleveland. And I definitely didn't see it at the time. You know, he was having this success in Miami. He was winning championships. I did not think that it was possible that LeBron would come back to Cleveland. You know, but during his last year, I started to warm up to that idea a little bit. Because, you know, I was watching a lot of the Heat's games in his final year in Miami. And I said to myself, LeBron is basically doing everything again like he did in Cleveland. It's like he was definitely carrying that team his last year in Miami. You know, Wade, the injuries had taken their toll on him. Also, you know, Chris Bosh definitely wasn't, you know, playing up to his potential. So it was all up to LeBron. So around that time, I definitely started thinking that it was a possibility that LeBron would come back to Cleveland. Excuse me. Got to get some more juice. So, you know, July of 2014 hit. And once LeBron announced that he was opting out of Miami, bam, the Heat, no pun intended, ramped up again on which team Would he be playing for this time? Would he do it again? Do it the same way like he did in 2010? No. He definitely didn't want to go through that scrutiny again. But, you know, he still wanted to control the narrative, but he wanted to be in a more subtle way than it was with the decision, because, you know, he had matured and his team had matured. They didn't want to go through all the, you know, all that scrutiny again. And man, I just remember every day listening to 92.3 The Fan. That's another Cleveland sports radio station here in Cleveland. To all the various hosts, you know, talking about where is LeBron gonna go? You know, and a lot of them were confident that LeBron was coming back to Cleveland. And, you know, you had a couple of Miami media members on these Cleveland sports shows saying, oh, he's not coming back to Cleveland. You know, he's going to stay in Miami. You know, he's won 2 championships here. He went to 4 straight finals. You know, they got Pat Riley. They're going to find a way to build a team around him. Plus, you guys burnt his jersey. Dan Gilbert wrote that letter. So why would he want to go back to Cleveland? But then that second week of July on SportsIllustrated.com, LeBron announces he's coming back home and coming back to Cleveland. I couldn't believe it, man. I was at work. I was just so happy. I couldn't show all my excitement because I was at work. But when I got home, man, me and my brother were just very excited that he was coming back home. You know, also listening to the radio, you know, a lot of the announcers were happy. Fans were happy. You know, seeing the various, you know, news reports here on Cleveland stations. A lot of people, you know, went downtown to celebrate, you know, just to, you know, let their excitement out. And yes, there were some Cavs fans wearing their LeBron jerseys. All of them did not burn them, okay? You know, their jerseys, a lot of their jerseys still look like they were intact. They were probably a little bit worn and moth smelling from all the years they were, you know, in the closet, but they were still intact. But we just knew that him coming back definitely, you know, brought a lot of pride back. Also, definitely, it was a time to forgive, you know, to finally put the decision behind us and start competing and contending again. And this time, you know, the Cavs, you know, the front office could find more creative ways to build a championship team around LeBron. You know, had a pretty damn good GM in David Griffin, despite the fact that he didn't have a GM job prior to being the Cavs GM. Man, that man was, you know, definitely knew how to maneuver, negotiate, and definitely create trades, you know, that may be far near impossible. So I definitely trusted David Griffin to build a team around LeBron. And he just went to work, you know, getting, well, of course, you know, having Kyrie and Tristan. But then he got some of his dudes from the Heat and Mike Miller and James Jones, Sean Marion and Brendan Haywood, excuse me, for his first stint back. And then, you know, well, the Cavs started out a little bit slow. because they were 19 and 20 because they were just getting used to the new head coach David Black. So then David Griffin pulled out some more magic. He ended up getting J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, and Timofey Mozgov in mid-season. And he just wanted Iman Shumpert. But Phil Jackson, who was the GM of the Knicks at the time, threw in JR because they were not seeing eye to eye in New York. And LeBron told David Griffin that, hey, I got him. I got JR. And after that, the team definitely improved and ended up going to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2007. But throughout the playoffs, they would suffer injuries. Kevin Love would get hurt in the first round against the Celtics. Then Kyrie would end up getting hurt in overtime in the finals against the Warriors in Game 1. And the Cavs ultimately lost that series in 6 games. Excuse me. But LeBron definitely did all he could. That was a hell of a performance he had in the finals. Some people felt he should have been finals MVP, whether the Cavs won or not. And some people still feel to this day that if the Cavs would have been healthy, they would have beaten the Warriors. Then the next year comes along, the 2015-16 season. Everything was going good for the Cavs, but they weren't seeing eye to eye with David Black. A lot of players definitely had their complaints about him. So around January, when the Cavs had the best record in the East, they removed David Black and replaced him with associate head coach Tyronn Lue, who had been with Doc Rivers in Boston and, the LA Clippers, respectively. Excuse me. As a player, he won 2 championships with the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. So, his challenge was to make the team even better. But they definitely had their struggles, especially against the top teams in the NBA. They lost a tough game to the Spurs. They got shellacked by the Warriors on MLK Day that season at home. Excuse me. The Warriors, they were definitely trying to prove that their championship was not a fluke, as they had just started winning about 24 straight games that ultimately led them to have a 73-9 record. So, the Cavs definitely had an easy run through the East, sweeping the Pistons and Hawks, then knocking off the Toronto Raptors in 6. And the rematch that everyone had been waiting for was here. But in the first 2 games, the Cavs got annihilated by almost 50 points. But then they shellacked the Warriors in Game 3 and then let an opportunity slip away in Game 4. But the Cavs were rallied to win 3 straight games, to win the NBA championship in 7 on the road in Oakland, breaking Cleveland's 52-year championship drought, and LeBron finally delivering on his promise. And he was named unanimous Finals MVP. So that 2016 NBA title definitely, was the culmination of all of us moving on from the decision. Me, myself, Cavs fans, front office, and definitely LeBron, because, he always said that he wanted to deliver a championship to Cleveland. And and I think that's why he came back, because that burden was still very heavy on him and very heavy on his heart. I got these 2 rings in Miami, but it won't be nothing like if it was for my hometown. As a matter of fact, in Lee Jenkins' interview on the Cavs championship documentary, he always said that LeBron even when he was in Miami, would talk about what a parade would look like in downtown Cleveland. Excuse me. So he finally delivered on his promise. That's why he let out all those tears after the Cavs, beat the Warriors, because he finally, did it. He brought it home for Cleveland. And I think that weight was finally off of his shoulders. Like, a lot of people said, him winning that championship in Cleveland was like winning 3 in Miami. And that was definitely his magnum opus. That was the masterpiece of his career. That's his biggest accomplishment. No matter what he does, no matter how many titles he wins from here on out for the rest of his career, nothing will top that Cleveland championship. And also, looking back on the decision, I realized everybody all had to grow up and mature. Me, Cavs fans, and even LeBron. Because I was 27 when that happened. LeBron was 25 going on 26. So we were young. I had to learn that, it's a business for the most part. It's not personal. And also I think LeBron had to learn on how to handle these type of situations better, because, basically LeBron look back on it and regret it on how he handled the decision. He doesn't regret going to Miami. He regrets on, doing the special, and also the media mistakes he made. I think he realized that he definitely could have handled it better, as far as the fans, making sure that they knew it wasn't about them, it was about him. As I said earlier, he had his issues with the Cavs organization. I think he definitely realized after the fact that he should have kept his issues with the organization and the fans separate, as I said in my video. And he definitely learned his lesson when he left Miami by doing the essay. He also wasn't upset over the fans, over their reactions at that time, because a lot of people felt, well, if I was him, I'd be mad at the fans for them burning my jersey after, what he did for them. But, he understood, because he even said it in that essay, that if, his favorite player on his favorite team would have left, he said he probably would have been mad too, just like the fans, the Cavs fans were at that time. But definitely think he came back in spite of Dan Gilbert, not because of him. I think he mainly came back because of David Griffin, because he and David Griffin had a very great relationship when he was here in Cleveland the second time. Matter of fact, I would say LeBron had a closer relationship with David Griffin than he did with Pat Riley in Miami. Because in Miami, it was always going to be, D Wade and Alonzo Mourning, because they're the Heat lifers. He would be like the third or fourth person on that list. Here with Griffin, he knew he was first. So, that 2016 championship healed a lot of wounds, from the decision, all the failures in Cleveland sports the past 50 plus years. And also, we could finally move on from the decision. No matter what happened after that, we can move on, we can move on. We can have that love for LeBron because of what he decided to come back and do. You know, because that's rare. Matter of fact, most of the time that stuff does not happen. You know, most players would never come back, you know, to their hometown to win a championship. But LeBron decided to do that. You know, for the fans, the city of Cleveland, the state of, you know, the Northeast Ohio region, and as well as Akron. Okay, I'm about to wrap this up. You know, in the next few minutes. Now, the legacy of the decision is that he paved the way for players to control the narrative. He showed that you really don't have to go to go to these okay, he did go to ESPN, but he definitely showed that you don't have to be beholden to any owners. You know, you can take your destiny into your own hands. You can go wherever you want to, you know, play whoever you want to play with. Also, excuse me, you know, with social media, you can definitely, you know, use that platform to control the narrative, to share whatever you're feeling, whichever team you decide to go to with everybody. That's why he ultimately ended up creating, you know, Uninterrupted. So the athletes can have a platform. But, and you know, KD definitely took advantage of that when he announced that he was going to Golden State in the summer of 2016. Excuse me. You know, even though, you know, the special itself was, you know, good or bad, however you took it, that was the highest rated show for ESPN in its history. And there hasn't been any show to top that ever since then. So, you know, LeBron, you know, a lot of players definitely embrace LeBron for, you know, controlling the narrative or, you know, taking his destiny and his career into his own hands, you know, not letting anybody control him, like agents, managers, owners, you know, and also a lot of players felt empowered by doing that, you know, and that's in some ways is why LeBron does get, you know, that gets a lot of hate for that, you know, because they feel, well, you know, he's not supposed to do that. You know, he didn't have to do that. You know, he didn't have to do the decision. You know, he doesn't have to jump from team to team, but that's why they call it free agency. Because you are entitled to be on whatever team you want to be. You know, you got to thank Kirk Flood for that. He paved the way, but players like LeBron have taken it to another level, you know, exercising their free agent rights. And also another thing that LeBron did, he paved the way for players to negotiate their own flexibility so that they won't get tied down in these long contracts, you know, if they're on a team that they don't want to be on. Like Kevin Durant when he was with Golden State. You notice KD never signed no like 3-4 year deals. He only signed 2-year deals, with the second year being an option just in case, you know, he wanted to opt out and test free agency, or things went south in Golden State, he would have the flexibility to leave. And that was the same thing LeBron, you know, has done with Cleveland, Miami, Cleveland again, and even with the Lakers. You know, a lot of his deals are 3 years with the 4th year option. So, LeBron is definitely a master at handling his business, controlling the narrative, and giving himself flexibility, in the deals he signs with teams. And a lot of players have definitely followed that blueprint since, and they're definitely going to keep following that into the future. Well, anyways, y'all, man, it's been fun, looking back on the decision 10 years later. I'm glad y'all came in here to join me. Appreciate all your comments. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, you can donate via Cash App or PayPal. The Cash App cash tag and the PayPal link are up top. So is the Teespring link. You can get all the official merchandise, like this t-shirt I'm wearing right now. And also, they're at reasonable prices. I'm offering 20% in free shipping throughout 2020. The promo codes are up top in the chat as well. So definitely check out the Talkin and Grubbin store for the merchandise. Definitely appreciate y'all support. Thank all my loyal subscribers for supporting me. Once again, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell and click all so you don't miss any new videos from me. Also, like, comment, and share the video. Excuse me. So before I go, like I said, I was definitely angry. I definitely was upset. I was hurt at the time over the decision, and I carried that with me for about a few years. I almost didn't watch basketball for a minute because I was just so angry and hurt. It didn't feel like fun. But eventually I got back into it slowly. And then I finally realized that I can't walk around with that. I ain't got no control. I don't have control over what LeBron or what anyone else does. So I just decided to sit back and enjoy basketball. And that definitely worked for me. I sat back, enjoyed basketball, enjoyed, watching the Cavs trying to rebuild. And you know what? I kind of got rewarded by following that mantra because LeBron, not too much later, LeBron came back home, delivered Cleveland a championship in historic fashion. Got a chance to see a championship parade. Never thought I would ever see that in my lifetime. So, everything just came full circle in 2016. And definitely always have that memory, and I always, look at that whole thing as a journey. And that's a journey I would definitely always have, will always remember forever. So once again, thank y'all for joining me on this look back on the decision 10 years later. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for all your support and love. I greatly appreciate it. But I'm about to get out of here, y'all. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. QC out. And hopefully I'll see you in another 10 years so we can recap the decision once again. So we can talk about the decision once again. I'm out. See you in another 10 years.